Good to see you again,
Good to
Sarah.
see you again.
It's quite an announcement.
Someone doesn't say hi to me.
All right, so let me just tell the audience what happened. Chris Carter, because he's wildly famous, when he goes out in public, he wears a hat, he wears sunglasses.
Indoors
he
and
tries
out.
to be incognito.
Indoors.
He was at the Whole Foods in his neighborhood. He sees Sarah Kustock, but he's wearing the hat and the shades, and he's staring at her.
Sarah just got done working out or running or something.
Some might even say leering at her, and she just said, "Who's this strange man leering at me?"
But he's in a hat. You were incognito. You got the sunglasses on, a hat. I didn't want to be staring at you.
Yeah, she was like, that can't be Chris, because the lady next to him looked too good to be with him. Like, man, he's weird.
And so she fled the premises, listening to a podcast, while Chris is running after her. Sarah, and
I didn't know you were running after me. Then I would have at least caught my attention.
Yeah, it's
I
not
can't believe you didn't say hi.
Yeah, it ain't no big thing in Tribeca for a brother running after a blonde. You know what I'm saying? So I saw a couple people, professional people.
Wait, hold on.
I was like, whoa.
Here's the best part. You came back into Whole Foods, and what'd you say to Sue? And she said, "Oh, did you get her?" I didn't get her.
couldn't catch her.
I couldn't catch her.
Didn't catch her.
Anyway, it's good to have you.
Yes.
Say hello to her. Okay. Hey, if someone told me that I had to do this entire show wearing a polycarbonate mask with goggles built in, I'd say, thanks, I'm good. Sixers star Joel Embiid didn't love the mask he had to wear for the fractured bone in his face, but had no choice if he wanted to play last night in Game 3 against the Heat. Upgraded from doubtful to no doubt before the game. He scored 23 points. He had 7 boards, playing his first game in over 3 weeks. Sixers win. They take a 2-1 series lead. At one point during the game, Justice Winslow stepped on the mask. Here's Embiid's reaction.
Justice stepped on it and tried to break it with his hands, but little do they know is that I have about 50 of them, so it's going to take much more than that to get me out of this series, and it's going to be a nightmare for them too.
If I do say so myself.
Yeah, Justice didn't know that the University of Penn had developed this technology, and they had been testing it there the last 10 days. So one of the best universities in the world is making the products for the NBA
Also,
stars.
they sent him more than one.
They sent him a bunch.
Did he say he had 50?
He said he has 50 of them. But he's got, I mean, this was early in the day. I sent you the story. He was listed as doubtful, and they said that if he took an elbow, he could have permanent damage to his eye. And so that's why people thought he might not play all this series. That was a different mask than we've ever seen. Like the goggles built into the mask. That's not the typical Rip Hamilton, I'm wearing this because I broke my nose mask.
Right.
Yeah, they said that it was a special surgery. He does risk some type of permanent damage, hit, but you could see this is a different setup than we've seen with other players, so he has more protection. But the thing that I thought was really intriguing, Steven Jackson was the first one to say, if you're a star in this league, you can force your way onto the court. It talked about, listen to the interviews, watch the write-ups in Philadelphia. It talked about a meeting that he had with the training staff yesterday. So, yes, I read the article, the report. Oh, man, he's going to be out maybe an extended period of time. And then he talked to them. I like to see, wow, what were some of the things said in that? And I think what Steven Jackson said, he took a little control of the situation and put himself at risk and said, yes, I'm willing to go out there.
Well, and it paid off. The Sixers won. He actually played well. Didn't look like he missed too much of a beat. How dangerous is this team with Embiid back in the lineup, Sarah?
Incredibly dangerous. And we've talked about this throughout the course of the end of the regular season. They absolutely are contenders to get to the Eastern Conference Finals, and I think to get to the finals. They have as good of a chance as we see some of these top teams, whether it's Toronto, the Cavaliers are going to have a hard time getting to the second round. You go down the list, and with the East there is so much balance. I think Philadelphia, to me, is the front runner, given the fact that they can play in a variety of different ways. They can play fast, they can play slow, they play defense, they rebound. And the versatility that Joel Embiid brings to their team, it was evident against that Miami team, and even more so in the fourth quarter. And I don't think you can overlook, and Cece, you know this, the fact that he came in, played the way he did after not playing for nearly a month, missing 10 games. The mask, there's been a lot of jokes about the Phantom of the Opera, and the mask. That's not easy. What it must take away from his peripheral vision, just getting used to shooting and playing, catching balls while wearing that, he was pretty flawless. You saw some rust in the way he took over in the fourth quarter. And that, to me, is special. And I just think he is a elite talent. Ben Simmons is an elite talent. But then you got guys like Marco Bellinelli, and the way in which Embiid draws attention, Simmons draws attention, frees them up for the type of shooters they have. J.J. Redick, you got Ersan Ilyasova, what he can do. They have got a lot of balance, and they can go deep in their rotation.
And a lot of what you're talking about, Joel Embiid playing in the first game, the point that you make, the run in the fourth quarter where he had 7 consecutive points for the 76ers, he talked about he had a little bit of a complication late with it, but he said, I'm going to take my shots. I'm going to take tough shots. If I happen to miss them, I'm still going to take them. But now, Joel Embiid only one game sample size, but they have a lineup and a roster that productivity that's unmatched. Joel Embiid getting 23 a game, Sarge getting 21 a game, Bellinelli getting 20 a game, Ben Simmons getting 20, J.J. Redick getting 16. This is how much they're averaging. There's no one that can match that type of firepower, and I believe, unless the Brow was to match up with them, now they don't have the depth, but one-on-one, there is no match for Joel Embiid compared to, man, there is firepower for Durant. There is firepower for Steph Curry. There is firepower for LeBron. But for Joel Embiid, there is no answer to him.
The best answer is supposed to be the guy he's playing, Hassan Whiteside. And Whiteside can't stay on the court. The best answer in the Eastern Conference, I should say, is supposed to be him. One thing you mentioned there that people, I think, would be shocked by is of the guys on the Sixers that have played in the entire series, so remove Embiid, their leading scorer is Dario Saric.
Yeah.
Their second leading scorer is Marco Bellinelli, pardon me. Like, Bellinelli, they picked up off the scrap heap. Saric, the big laugh on him forever was he's never going to come over. They just spent a top 10 pick on him. He's never going to come over from Europe. I have been, listen, I am sometimes, this bit me with Tom Brady this year. Sometimes I'm a little too reliant on historical precedent. I like to look to the past to learn about the future. Like, that is, outside of sports, U.S. history is like my passion. I'm a history buff inside and outside of sports. And so all year, or the last couple months, when I've been saying, Philly, if anyone's going to beat the Cavs, I think it's this team. But think back to the Thunder, when they had 3 MVPs on their team. Their first run in the playoffs. They took the Lakers 6. The Lakers team that went to the championship, it was a good run, but they got knocked out in the first round. Then the next year, they went to the conference finals, and then they got knocked out. Took them 3 playoff runs to break through. Maybe that's the wrong comparison. Maybe the better comparison is the 95 Magic with Shaq and Penny. Maybe the better comparison is the 86 Rockets with the young Akeem and Sampson, teams that we didn't see, we didn't think they were ready yet. And by the way, stylistically, Shaq and Penny, Embiid and Simmons, there's a lot there. And so I'm not ready to anoint them there yet. They're only up 2-1. That's the closest a series can be after 3 games. Like, we overstate it to a degree. But where we've seen their best, the Sixers' best is in line with the best of the best teams in basketball.
And they're getting better at the right time of the year. They've been playing, they have been trending in the right direction when you need to be at your best.
Where do you see this series going now? Them playing as well as they are, getting Joel Embiid back. Do they take the series?
I believe they take the series, and I'm not sure if it ends up being 4-1. I mean, I don't know if it is a gentleman's sweep, of which they finish off in Miami, but I do think that they will be able, if it goes to 6 games, be able to take care of things. I just think they have got a confidence in them that comes with Joel Embiid. I think all of these players in their own right have a lot of confidence in their individual games, but you're not reliant on just one player. And I think we've seen the balance out of this team.
Joel Embiid said in the press conference, I'm a nightmare. And for the Heat, the series just started. The nightmare just started with him getting back on the court.
And the other guys feed off that.
And one guy whose name we haven't mentioned here is the guy who our good friend Colin Cowherd said the other day is his favorite player to watch in the league now. So planting LeBron for the first time in a decade. Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons carries himself with some of the same, I don't even want us to call it arrogance, but some of the same confidence that Embiid has. He's just not as good of a quote as Embiid is.
Yes, it's a quiet confidence.
But when we want to talk about a nightmare, I mean, when your point guard's 6'10", even though he can't shoot, when your point guard is 6'10", how are
with 4 shooters on the court?
Right.
That's where it changes.
And that is one of the reasons why you cannot guard Ben Simmons the way you think you should be able to. You think you should be able to sit off him. When the guy's 6th inning can pass like that, sitting off him, all that does for him is give him more vision for passing lanes and for cutters.
And gets him closer to the bucket.
Right, and it can
It's
give him a
harder
running
to stop
start.
him.
And
Yes.
Ben Simmons is a terrific defender. Joel Embiid believes he is the best defender in the league. So we talk so much about them offensively. Defensively, they are an absolute load to try and score on.
Since Christmas, they're the #2 defense in the NBA. Since Christmas. We're past Easter. Like, that's not a small sample size. That's a giant sample size. This team's totally legit. Like, there's no other way to look at it.
Sarah, thanks so much. Where are you headed this week?
I'm headed to Indianapolis. Game
Okay.
4, Cavs-Pacers.
Watch the Cavs get a couple wins.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So tune in.
Okay, we will. Look out for this guy in any major
He won't even
supermarket
say hi to
chain.
me.
If you see Chris Carter in Miami this weekend at the Sixers game, say hi to him. He'll
Coming
wear
up.
shades,
He'll be the one in the sunglasses.
Louis
and
Vuitton.
the
Oh, you won't have the scarf
wig.
on.
Is Baker
Miami.
Mayfield the lock to land with the Jets? It's next on First Things First.
So always be shouting out where I'm going to be at in the weekend. Look for Chris Carter, the
There you go,
AAA.
Hydro moisture.